So as well as facing a driving ban this Christmas, if you were a drink driver, you were also looking down the barrel of the embarrassment of being named publicly. Derbyshire Police, you probably remember this being on the news, announced it was going to name every driver charged with driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs in December. But they didn't. After the first names were announced, the campaign was stopped. BBC Radio Derby understands that senior officers at the force expressed concern about this campaign, and also that Facebook took down the force's post in which people were named at the start of the month. The force says it stopped the campaign after receiving a complaint. Nick Freeman is a motoring solicitor. He's had some pretty high-profile clients, and he joins me. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
What do you make of the strategy, naming and shaming?
Well, the senior officer is absolutely right to have taken it down. They're not drink drivers at the time they're named and shamed. They're alleged drink drivers. They're people who have been arrested and processed by the police and charged. And until they're convicted, in English law, they're presumed to be innocent. So I can understand why the police want to do it. They obviously want to deter people from drinking and driving, which is obviously a commendable course of action. I think a much better way of dealing with it will be to say, look, we are going to hold a gallery of shame sometime in the new year, and all those people who are convicted will appear in that gallery of shame. So there's a sort of sword of Damocles hanging over everyone who's tempted. If they are convicted, they'll appear in that gallery, and the police, by operating in that way, are sort of deterring people and not offending any well-established legal principles.
I mean, you're famously nicknamed Mr. Loophole. Are we talking technicalities here? Isn't the reality that, you know, if you're a copper who pulls someone over because they look like they've had a skinful the way they're driving, and you breathalyse them and they blow on the handheld breathalyser higher than 35 milligrams, whatever the legal limit is, then there's a fair chance that you believe, although we've not gone through the whole process, that they're a drink driver?
You're right, there is a fair chance. But for convictions in English law, we need to be sure beyond reasonable doubt. We don't deal with fair chances, and it isn't simply the law. You know, if we want to change the law and think, well, I tell you what, let's convict people on the basis there's a fair chance, and we'll be living in a very different society, won't we? So it isn't the law. Everyone knows that, including the police, and they're going to achieve their objective by doing as I suggest. They're not in any way going to be disadvantaged, and they're then complying with legal principles, which must be in their own interest, and they are the people who enforce the law.
So the 5 people who were publicly named briefly in, I think it was the 5th of December in Derbyshire.
Yeah.
Potentially, you know, could they sue or you know, take some sort of action, complain?
That they would be entitled to make a complaint. Whether or not there will be any damages, each case will have to be examined on its own merits, and ultimately it depends whether those people are acquitted or convicted. If someone's been named and shamed and they've lost their job and they've suffered terrible consequences of that and they're ultimately acquitted, then of course there would be significant damages arising out of that naming and shaming. Because in fact what you're doing is you're naming and shaming someone who is innocent.
Clearly this was well-intentioned.
We have to remember, we have lots of very well-established people, you know, just to sort of move the goalpost slightly, you know, Cliff Richard. We had the whole saga with him and the way his privacy was invaded, etc., for all to see. And, you know, if we thought, well, there's a reasonable chance he's done something, well, we've named and shamed him. We destroyed his life, in effect, haven't we? And he's done nothing wrong. Now,
bringing it back to people being charged with drink driving, though, ultimately, is there anything technically wrong, anything legally wrong with publishing and publicising the fact that these people have been charged?
Yes, there is. There is. It flies in the face of the presumption of innocence. As I said to you initially, if you are charged in English law with an offence, when you appear in court, your lawyer, if it's a trial, will stand up and say, you are presumed to be innocent. And he will remind the court of that. He'll then go through the evidence. He'll put forward the defence. And the court will ultimately decide guilt or innocence.
But the fact that a named person has been charged with an offence is a reportable thing legally.
Well, in my view, the people should not be named. They should remain anonymous.
Has anyone done anything that actually breaks the law here, Nick?
Sorry, I'm saying...
Has anyone done anything that actually breaks the law?
Yes, I would say that Derbyshire Police have broken the law because, as I said to you, there is the presumption of innocence. And what they've done is they've done something which totally contravenes that presumption of innocence. They're seeking to embarrass and destroy reputations on the basis that someone has simply been charged. Now, if that person is ultimately acquitted, there will be a significant case for damages against the police, which the police don't want because, of course, ultimately it's the taxpayer who foots the bill. And what is the point in doing that? What do we achieve Why not do as I suggest? Because then we have the deterrent effect, and then everyone can read with glee, these disgraceful people have been drink driving at some time at the end of January, February time. They will know that there is going to be a gallery of shame, and they will be in it. It suits everybody, and it complies with the law. Surely that's in everyone's advantage, isn't it? What are we actually gaining by naming and shaming people who might be innocent?
Nick, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Good to talk to you.
Thank
Nick
you.
Freeman, motoring solicitor. Any thoughts of your own, you know where I am.